On last week's show, we saw Top Fuel, these guys putting the Nitro in the Nitro Champs. And this is what it came down to after one of the best days of Top Fuel racing we have ever seen in this country. It was a breakthrough win for the Mariani Motorsports team. And after bringing on a new sponsor throughout the course of this season, they rewarded the Lafan Group with a win and a big trophy here from the 2016 Nitro Champs. For a team that has put so much into the promotion of this sport, this weekend was a just reward for them. On today's show, we are back here at Sydney Dragway and more spectacular racing from the Pro Slammers and round 6 of their championship here at the Nitro Champs. This is the points after round 5. This weekend is the penultimate round of the championship, and John Zappia with one hand on the season title in the Pro Slammer category. And we find ourselves here. This is session 2, the final qualifying session for the Pro Slammers. We've got Pino Priolo outside the field right now. He's taking on Jeff Wilson, the Sydney sider. Oh, Wilson way out of shape. Pino Priolo looks like he's on a decent run, and it's a 6:21. Oh, that is only just outside the field, and unfortunately for the West Aussie, he is not going to make it into today's show.
When you go into the second round of qualifying, if you haven't got a good first round, you've got to really just be conservative and make sure you get down there and get a number. We did, just come up a tad short, and unfortunately Gary Phillips knocked me out by, very small margin. But, it's a tough deal.
Next matchup, we've got a big one here. It is Andrew Searle, the semi-finalist from the East Coast Nationals way back in November. He's taking on the Sydney sider in the form of Mark Valeri, driving the Holden Trade Club Monaro. I tell you what, Andrew Searle needs a big run here to get into the field. Valeri's already in with a 6:08, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen for Andrew Searle, although he's pedalled it. He goes around Mark Valeri in the deep end, but it's not going to be enough. A 7:59, that's a huge shock non-qualifier for Andrew Searle. Jeff Braden now in the Chrysler Saratoga. Yes, that's right. Probably a car you've never heard of in your life. The man that looks good as a door slammer. He's up against the West Aussie in the form of Marty Dack, and it looks like his tough year is just going to keep on getting tougher. A 6:65, not good enough this time around.
Last year we came third. I think we're 4 points off second, run up to Zap. So yeah, it's a learning curve with this new car, so that's just going to take some time.
Why change cars?
To keep up with our competitors, you've got to have the best gear. So, and in this game, you've got to have the best gear. So this is the latest chassis out of the States. It took a couple of years to build. It's got all the latest, all the latest and the greatest in it. So yeah, you've got to have the best.
Next up, one of the most popular cars in this class. It is Paul Cannulli in the Plymouth Duster taking on the old master, Gary Phillips. Phillips outside the field right now. He needs a 6.215 or better to get into this show for race day. And I tell you what, he's doing a good drive job here. Cannulli makes a good run. But importantly for Phillips, a 6.16, that gets him into the field in the number 8 position.
Mate, the track's always difficult here, but the track's definitely good. It's very sticky, mate. Every track's different, but yeah, Sydney's a good track.
Next up, it's a pair of guys who have really found some form this weekend. We've got Benny Bray in the Century Batteries Chevy Corvette, a man who's already been in the 5-second zone this weekend in the first session of qualifying. He's taking on the Victorian in the form of Robin Taylor. Now, for a debutant, this guy is laying down some serious numbers this season in Pro Slammer. Although he's got his hands full on this run, wow, he did a good job of keeping that thing upright. And Ben Bray, that car is a bracket car at the moment. A 586, that puts him in the number 2 spot.
Yeah, well, like I said, I've done a lot of testing because there's no use bringing a butter knife to a gunfight all the time. I bought the car that I think I can win with. John Zappia is not an easy task to run down, but every time you get a tenth closer to him, you got a better chance of beating him.
Final pass, and this is a big one. You talk about two of the heavy hitters of the Pro Slammer class. It is John Zappia, our points leader, taking on the man who is right up there in the points as well, Grant O'Rourke. Both of these cars proven 5-second performers, two of the best quality Pro Slammers that we've got in this country right now. This is going to be a barn burner of a race. Both guys throwing everything at this racetrack here at Sydney. Grant O'Rourke with his hands full. That car was moving around, but that right there for John Zappia puts the exclamation point on his weekend. A 572 at over 400 kilometres per hour. So coming into race day, this is the way they shake out. John Zappia, he's got the number 1 next to his name on the side of the car, and also in qualifying, Ben Bray, Grant O'Rourke, Rob Taylor, Jeff Wilson, Paul Canuli, Mark Valeri, and Gary Phillips rounding out the top 8. Now we want to show you a little bit of something from the first round of qualifying. We're on board with Jeff Gradden right now. This is a wild run, not only for the fact that the GoPro actually catches a blower explosion at the top end of the racetrack, but keep your eye on Frank Mamone in the opposite lane. Frank Mamone gets way out of shape. He gets some oil under the tyres courtesy of a blown engine and gets that car over into the wall. This is Pro Slammer racing at its finest. Big hit for Frank Mamone. Fortunately, he'd be able to come back for the second round, but if that's not a testament to how good GoPros are, I don't know what is. Sky grass, sky grass, sky grass, and that's it. On board one more time. Keep your eye on the far side of the racetrack. Frank Mamone gets out in front, but then you see a puff of smoke. Whole bunch of oil goes under the tyre. He did a great drive job on that car just to keep it upright. And right about here, the supercharger lets go for Jeff Gradden. And at 360 kilometres per hour, this is what it looks like when you come off a race car. Not a lot of fun, but I tell you what, that is a testament to just how tough these GoPros are. And it was still recording. We saved the footage, and it's just spectacular every time we watch it. It is race day here in Sydney. We have got a very tough field of Pro Slammers ready to hit the track here at the Nitro Champs, and there are no easy rounds in Pro Slammer, let me tell you. We've got the battle of the newcomers in Jeff Wilson and Robin Taylor first up. Grant O'Rourke will take on Paul Canuli. Ben Bray will take on Mark Valeri, and in the big one for mine, John Zappia and Gary Phillips, two of the old masters of alcohol racing, will do battle. That's going to be a big one, but before we get to that, we need to tackle this first matchup. It is Jeff Wilson, the Sydney sider, taking on Rob Taylor in the Camaro, and we caught up with him a little bit earlier on today.
Well, this is our rookie year, so we've run 586 in our rookie year. We've qualified number 4 today. We went to a final in Adelaide, so overall we're pretty happy.
You sound like you've set this up like a business plan. You've got a set of milestones. Is that the way you're approaching it?
Exactly a business, 100%. It's no different. I run a medical clinic in Melbourne, and we run this exactly like we run the medical clinic. Everyone has a job to do, and everyone has a task, and they do it.
And that is the way to run a successful race team. Oh, no, this is heartbreaking for Jeff Wilson. He's being pushed back, and you can actually see a trail of fluid just to the right-hand side of the car as it's being pushed back there. I dare say that's probably a fuel leak looking at where it's coming from. That is a heartbreaking way to end the first round of racing, but for Rob Taylor, it's great for him. It means he's going to the semi-finals. Oh, and how's that for a get-out-of-jail-free card for Rob Taylor? The car goes up in smoke right at the hit of the throttle. To be honest, the way that car moved, it's almost as if something broke in the rear end of that car because it made a huge move over to the wall. Rob Taylor did a great job of catching it. The times don't really matter. 12-second pass, not representative, obviously. He was good on the tree with an 0.84, and that's going to stand him in good stead for the later rounds, but just massive tyre shake. The tyre didn't get a clean transition to the racetrack, straight up in tyre smoke. Not what you want, but if you're going to do it, a solo pass is a perfect time to do it. And for Jeff Wilson, well, it's a heartbreaking way to end it, but those guys will be back.
Now, are there plans to branch out?
Yes, there are. Look, we just needed to get some this sort of result from this weekend on the board, and now that we've got it, we'll seriously look at travelling.
Well, tell us about your weekend. How has it panned out?
It's been a great weekend for us. The highs and lows of drag racing. It's our first event we actually made the field, made the cut, and then to go out in the first round and unfortunately have a fuel leak problem which made us shut down, and so we got knocked out before we actually got to the start line. But to qualify was an incredible feat for us. I'm very happy.
Second matchup of this first round of racing, and this is a big one. It is Grant O'Rourke in the Pontiac taking on this very, very cool Plymouth Duster. Don't see a lot of these on the racetrack. That's Paul Cannulli racing for PC Cranes this weekend, and he's really had a good showing. He's been on top of the tune-up in this car. You've got to remember, this is a quasi-team car to the Pro Alcohol funny car that his brother John races. They share a lot of the same technology, a lot of the tune-up as far as the engine goes, but the setup, the chassis setup, and the clutch setup, completely different between those cars. Grant O'Rourke, well, what can we say about him? He has been on top of his game for a long, long time, and if it wasn't for John Zappia, he'd probably have a championship to his name by this point in time. But John Zappia, he's the best of the best, and to win championships, you've got to beat the best. That's what it's all about for these guys. This is going to be a cracker of a race. And that is an upset. Man, oh man, Paul Cannulli takes it with a 5.94. Becomes the third car to dip into the 5-second zone this weekend. Look at the reaction times, only 1,000th of a second between them. And for Grant O'Rourke, I dare say he'll be a little bit disappointed in that. I don't think the car ran as well as what he was expecting it to. He may have had to correct halfway down the racetrack. In fact, right there, it looked like it shook the tyres early on in the run, and he gave it a pedal. The car settled down, but that was just enough to open the door for Paul Cannulli.
Mate, we've done a lot of changes to the car this weekend. We changed tyres, gear ratios and that just to see what we could do. We had a bit of trouble with that going into first qualifier. Second qualifier, we had to put a bit more fuel in, think that we'd be able to sort it out, but we couldn't. Yeah, we had a lot of tyre shake, and fortunately in first round we done a few more changes, and yeah, got it over the line.
So we did the first qualifier, that got us in a number 3 position. We did the second qualifier, no, we didn't advance, but we held our position. And we've actually just come out of the first round in which we lost fair and square to Paul Cannulli. The car went out, it rattled, and that was it. I did what I had to do, and it wasn't quite good enough. We both cut good lights. They come up with a mid 590, I believe, and we ran a 605 or 7 or something, I think, so just lost fair and square.
Next matchup, it is the Holden Trade Club Monaro of Mark Valeri. This car owned by Maurice Fabietti up until this season has been driven by Maurice Fabietti, but Mark's doing a fantastic job in that car, and he is taking on Ben Bray, who's probably got the most consistent car on the grounds this weekend, and we caught up with him before the first round of racing.
The last round I come to, we had a lot of problems. We went away. We've probably done about 10 test days with the car since then. Changed a lot of things. Did a couple of things that I knew would work. They did work. We got the car to run 579 in testing. Wasn't quite in legal trim. I've made it legal now, and it's pretty much where I want it to be.
So Ben Bray, he says the car is where he wants it to be, but we know that Mark Valeri can step up with some big times in that Holden Trade Club Monaro. They've been running pretty deep into the 580s over the last couple of months, and well, with a very, very good track here in Sydney in front of a big hometown crowd, he does not want to be beat by the Queenslander, I'll tell you right now. And Ben Bray, what can we say about him? He is a multi-time former national champion, a very tough racer, and he goes red on the tree. It's 003 red, and what a side-by-side race it would have been. Side-by-side fives, a 5.93 for Ben Bray. It's all null and void anyway, courtesy of that red light, but a 5.87 for Mark Valeri. That is a sensational effort from that team. And man, oh man, there's no excuse for that. Ben Bray just left too soon. 003, that's 0.003 of a second away from perfect, but it really doesn't matter. Red is red is red, and Ben Bray, he left the cherry hanging on the tree. That sends Mark Valeri on his way to the semi-finals, and I dare say he's going to be a very, very happy camper.
Mark, running third in the championship coming into the round, have you got a bit of a home track advantage?
Yeah, we do. We come out here a little bit and do a bit of testing, but there's never an advantage at any track. Zap and Grant and all the other guys, it's always on the money. So we went a 5.87 in that round, so we'll see how we go in the next one.
What a first round of racing we have got, and well, we've got Gary Phillips and John Zappia about to line up now. The Lucas Oil product 53 Studebaker. It's been the first time we've seen the Slammer for a while in Sydney for Gary Phillips. The focus has really been on the pro alcohol car and the championship there. That is their number one priority. and they always like to bring the slammer out for a bit of fun when the time allows and when they've got the crew on the grounds. But he's got a very, very tough ask here. He is up against John Zappia. And what can we say about this man that hasn't already been said? For the better part of a decade, this man has been dominating the landscape in Pro Slammer, and this season is no different. He is leading the points. He's out in front. He's got a pretty commanding lead, and with a pretty solid weekend so far this weekend, I dare say that he has just about got this championship wrapped up. It's going to take a momentous run at the Winter Nationals for anybody to catch him. Gary Phillips all over the shot. The car left very, very aggressively. But with that, John Zappia, he's on his way to the semi-finals with a very nice run. Although a 5.97, he leaves a little bit on the table there. When you look at the runs that we've had from the other cars, we saw a 94 from Canuli, a 93 from Ben Bray, and an 87 from Mark Valeri. John Zappia left a little bit to be desired there. The car moved around a lot. You could see he had to correct mid-run. He still gets it to the finish line, still gets it into the 5-second zone. But Gary Phillips, that car was loaded for bear. It went sub 1 second to the first incremental timers, and that is a big tick in his box. They're starting to get that car sorted, and I think they're going to be a big, big threat at the Winter Nationals. Let's go on board with Zap. Man, he can drive this car. The car gets out of the groove, he corrects it, throws the chutes. He's on his way to the semi-finals, and we'll see him back very, very shortly. So, semi-final number 1 will be Mark Valeri taking on Paul Canuli, and our second semi-final will see John Zappia taking on Rob Taylor. If the first round of racing was anything to go by, we are set for some epic semi-final showdowns, and we'll see them all after the break. Well, that is a very, very happy John Canuli, and that was only after a first round win. What happens if Paul Canuli goes all the way through and takes out this event? Man, that's going to be a big party in the Canuli pits, I'll tell you right now. But before we get to that, the sun has gone down here in Sydney, the lights are on, and we have got beautiful conditions for racing in front of a big, big Sydney crowd here for the 2016 Nitro Champs. We've got Pro Slammer on track right now. The right of screen is Mark Valeri. Left of screen, Paul Canuli. This is going to be a barn burner of a semi-final matchup. I'll tell you right now, both guys ran in the 5-second zone in the first round of racing, and both guys are looking to make their way through to the final round. This is one of the most prestigious events on the Australian drag racing calendar. If you take home a trophy from the Nitro Champs, be it a runner-up or a win, that's a big, big trophy to have on your mantelpiece. And that is exactly what these guys are battling it out for right now. The door closes for Mark Valeri. It's all up to him. You'll see it's actually a hard driving position for him. He's on the left-hand side of the car. He has to look around that supercharger to just even see the Christmas tree. It is not an easy task, and it does make cutting a good reaction time very difficult. Big wheel stand for Valeri. He's out of shape. He's out of this race. And there's a lot of smoke coming out of that car for Paul Canuli. He takes the win. That's going to be a big, big scalp, but all that smoke, that means there is going to be some work to do for the PC Cranes car once they get that thing back to the pit area. Oh man, Mark Valeri, that car was aggressive off the start line. Morris Fabietti had the whole Trade Club Monaro hopped up for this run, and you can see it just picked up the front end, started getting on the wheelie bar and just drove the car way over to the wall. By the time Mark pedalled it, he got it back into the centre of the lane. This is going to be a great replay. He knew that the race was over. He could see Paul Canuli out in front. Oh wow, that was almost one full lock of the steering wheel. And when you're doing that in a Pro Slammer, you know you're in trouble. And for Paul Canuli, all that smoke and the car bouncing around, that's not too unusual for a Pro Slammer in the braking area, but all that smoke, that means there is going to be a lot of work to do for those guys. Next matchup, well, it was supposed to be a matchup. You can see John Zappia on screen right now. He was scheduled to take on Rob Taylor in the Mad Professor Camaro, but unfortunately for that team, they have suffered some parts breakage. They actually broke a part in the rear end, and they just couldn't get it fixed for this round of racing, which is a heartbreaking way to go out. I mean, this is the semi-final of one of the biggest races of the year. They've got a chance to take down the multi-time national champion, and I say multi-time, I'm talking 9 consecutive titles for John Zappia. This guy is a tough, tough racer. and they've got a chance to take him down. And when you go out like that, well, I guess that's all just part of drag racing, isn't it? What it means for John Zappia, though, he gets a solo pass. He gets the chance to test his car against the racetrack and maybe try a few things heading into this final round where he will take on Paul Canuli. Oh, a lot of wheel speed for John Zappia. He pedals it a couple of times. He knows that there's not much to be gained by keeping that throttle wide open across the finish line. A 661, well off the representative pace. And in fact, it won't give him lane choice for the final round. That will go to Paul Canuli. But let's have a look at the replay. Keep your eye on the rear tyres. You can see they start spinning very, very quickly. And John Zappia actually has to get off the throttle, let the rear end settle down. He gets back on it. The car makes a big, big move over towards the centre line. That was a really, really good drive job for John Zappia. And you can hear on and off the throttle. And he knows what he needs to do to get that car back for the final round, get it turned around and make the corrections to the tune-up that he needs to make for the final round, which is coming up very, very shortly. You can see our track official just burning off some excess water from the burnout box. So we take one more look at the replay from John Zappia. Just way too much wheel speed off the start line. He'll get that thing turned around. I mean, he's been doing this for a long, long time. And that's where we find ourselves right now. It is the final round. There has been a huge build-up for the Canuli team. They're trying to get this car fired up. They actually had to replace a piston in the engine to get it back for the final round. You can see they've really got some problems firing this car up. Now, John Zappia, no issues for him. He's got it fired up. He's going to go through his burnout procedure as usual. Not a lot of tyre smoke coming from the car. And you can see in the background, that orange duster, they're still trying to get that car fired up. This is a dramatic situation for Paul Canuli. These guys have thrashed between rounds just to get this thing to the starting line. And you can see they're really trying to get it fired up here. And I don't know that they're going to do it because John Zappia is on his way back from the burnout already. Could he have another solo pass? No, he won't. They've got it started. Man, you talk about cutting it close to the bone for Paul Canuli. Now, I would hope he would do a short burnout here, just purely out of sportsmanship for John Zappia, because John Zappia is almost all the way back to the starting line. Or if he does do a full burnout, he needs to back it up very, very quickly. In fact, you can even see his crew member there throwing his hands in the air saying, hang on, we need to get this car back to the start line. It's not fair to make John Zappia wait any longer than he has to. He's sticking by his normal routine here. Now, all I can hope for Paul Canuli is that this doesn't affect his driving. When you've got such a thrash to get the car back to the start line, sometimes it can take your focus away from what you need to do behind the steering wheel. And these cars are not easy cars to drive. You need to bring the RPMs up to the right launch RPM. You need to make sure you hit all your gear shifts. You need to make sure you hit the parachutes at the other end of the racetrack. It all sounds very easy, but it's not necessarily the most straightforward thing to do. Now, he's gone straight into stage here. That wasn't intentional for Paul Canuli. We've got a race on our hands. John Zappia way out of shape. Did he get over the centre line? I don't think he did. And Paul Canuli, after the drama of getting that car back for the final round, he takes the win with a sub-par 663, but the times don't matter. He gets to the finish line first. He knocks out the champ, John Zappia, and there is going to be a party in the Paul Canuli pit area tonight. I tell you what, handshakes all round from the Fuchs Lubricants team, from John Zappia. This was a wild race from start to finish. You can see John Zappia picks up the front wheels ever so slightly, got real close to the centre line as well, but he had to get off the throttle, let the rear end settle down. The car just sashaying from side to side. Paul Canuli was late on the tree, and I think that was probably as a result of the problems getting that car back to the start line. But once Zappia had problems, Canuli drove around him in the deep end, and that's all you need to do. It's not about who gets off the start line first. It's not about who gets to half track first. It's all about who gets to the finish line first. And on this night here in Sydney, it's Paul Canuli.
Paul, what an awesome outcome for you and the team.
Mate, we're wrapped. The crew done a brilliant job getting the car turned around. We had a few issues. Mate, last second, got it together. We had no oil pressure. And checked it again. One of the boys picked it up, and yeah, we had oil pressure, so we raced out, and mate, we got it there. And then we got to the start line, couldn't select the gear linkages had fallen off, So I had to actually pull the actually linkage off the gearbox to get it in the gear. Then I had no trans brake, mate. It was a miracle that we got there, you know, but we done it. So big thanks to the crew, missus and kid, everyone, family.
So a surprise win for Paul Cannulli this weekend vaults him up to number 5 in the points, but John Zappia still has a commanding lead in this point score. He's way out in front, and it's going to be a tough ask to chase him down from here. Congratulations to the entire Cannulli team for this win this weekend. It's been a sensational performance, and they have certainly earned it by thrashing their way back to this final round, and they're the ones who get to hoist the trophy at the end of the day. On next week's show, we've got all the action from the Nitro-fueled two-wheel warriors of top bikes. Check out the website for all the information regarding the 400 Thunder series, 400thunder.com.au. That's all we've got time for. We'll see you next time.